This is Silas is going to be part of the Meme Whisperer series where I'm going to be discussing certain memes and other things related to it. On the screen right now is a meme I made in Archer Gator posting. I guess now it's called petty posting because there's something going on in the group. People complaining about the actual templates of the week, and then somebody was like, "Hey, we'll just do templates of the week, one of the mods." Anyway, so I posted this one right there. This is a scene from the show Archer with it's Lana and Cyril talking about. I think Lana had found Cyril cheating with Pam, and then they're in the bathroom talking in the top thing, and in the bottom one, Pam's looking from the from one of the stalls over the stalls, looking down at them like, I can hear what you're saying, and they were talking about her or something like that. That was the whole thing. So initially, the meme is like the top. It's two people talking about something, and then the bottom is somebody looking in, saying like kind of in a threatening way, or like, "Oh, you haven't heard the last of this. So something more is going to happen." So kind of threatening aura to her. So with this meme, as you can see on the top, it says people saying, "Oh, 2020 is finally over, worst year ever," and then the bottom it's like the 20s decade. So 20s is a decade, and I posted this with a kind of asking people, why do people think? Whatever it was, I personally had a pretty good 2020, and I hope you did too. There was issues in the world and things like that, but personally, I look at things and I'm like, okay, what can I make out of these things? What are the best things that can happen from it? And there's good, there's bad. The good things are going to continue, the bad things are going to continue. Time happens. That's how things work. But in this case, with this meme, I was thinking, why do people think anything that was bad, the main bad things about the last year, why do they think those things actually think of the Gregorian calendar? And there's going to be some kind of way where they're going to like stop. Oh, it's a new year. The coronavirus isn't going to think like, okay, now I'm going to start a New Year's resolution and stop infecting people at the rates that have been infecting them before. So I'm going to change that now. If the coronavirus was the actual reason, has there been any political person who said on the new year we're going to change this thing around? Do people literally think that, oh, for some people in the United States of America or the world in general, oh, finally Trump's out this year, so now everything is going to be good? And I'm going to be talking about that in a few other videos in a few other places. But with that, that was this meme, that was the idea with it. And now let's get into this. I'm going to read you something about this tweet that I think kind of explains part of what this thing is. And I talk about memes, I also talk about tweets. And in this one, this is going to support what I've been talking about with just the perception that people have about this. What's really going to change with this new year? How do people perceive time? What do people expect out of things? By just the way you view the world is going to change the way you actually interact with these things. Problems occur not because of what X is, but because of how we define X. Now, I've seen this image going around. You can see it on the screen. This is a video here. I'm going to play a bit of it. Maybe it'll be how loud it's going to be. Okay, let's drop the volume. As you can see, this is once the coronavirus epicenter. Thousands packed Wuhan, China, and let go of balloons to celebrate the new year. And they were contrasting this. I've seen some people contrasting this image, an image from this, with the people, and Times Square, which is completely empty. And Times Square is traditionally the location in the United States of America that has one of the most famous or publicized celebrations, with the dropping of the ball and the fireworks and things like this. And here in Nairobi, Kenya, they had some selected type of things that were streamed on the television or broadcasted on TV. People were in certain places doing certain celebrations, but there was limitations. I was talking to my sister in Rome, and they also had the same 10-hour curfew. I mean, 10 p.m. curfew that many other countries have been having with the different curfews. And I was thinking, if it's just one day for New Year's where people understand it's something important, why don't you just push the curfew back to 10 p.m. or to 1 a.m.? So people can still go out and celebrate the actual thing? Or why can't you have a situation where some of the curfews said, okay, you still have to be home by 10, but if you go over to somebody's place, you have to stay there until the morning. And that's pretty much the same as it's been on other days, right? And why do they think that somehow there's something about the virus that at 10 o'clock at night, it's not going to be as infectious as it would be earlier? That's something that doesn't really make that much sense to me, but maybe somebody else can explain why that arbitrary time is set. Yes, I know it's supposed to reduce movement of people, but if you have a situation like this, I think one day of issues? Have they been spikes? Tried to look at the figures. Have they been noticeable spikes after things like Thanksgiving? Have there been notable spikes after the mostly peaceful protests? What is a thing that actually shows a noticeable spike, and what is a thing that does not? I saw people talking about actually going into Wuhan. The World Health Organization said they're going to go in and do more research to find out where the virus came from, but they're not going to. They already announced they're not going to blame anyone. What is it? How do you announce ahead of time you're not going to blame someone if you go there and literally find that somebody actually started this thing? Why are you not going to actually report that? But let's just read some of the explanations here. And this is what I was thinking about. People just look at things in different ways and get different expectations out of things. And just the way people communicate, it's somewhat odd to me. So with this one, they posted this. I've seen people on the more on the political right saying, look, this is what's happening in Wuhan. This is what's happening here. We should open up in New York. We should open up in the West. Like, look, they're playing you. They're kind of making fun of you. And they've had some of these. There have been some people in the CCP who've come out and said, look what we're doing in China. We did such a better job. And Drew Holden is also somebody I follow on Twitter, and he does these threads about covering how different people, the media covers different things. And there was one of the things in his top 10 of last year, he was talking about how previously there were some people who were praising the way China did what they did, or, oh, the things in China could work in the United States of America, but we're not going to be able to do the lockdowns and things like that, yet lockdowns haven't been done. Or earlier they're talking about, oh, China was so good at what they did and they have low numbers, just taking those numbers in trustworthy. And then recently we saw something coming out saying, okay, China was lying about the numbers. So there are all these things going back and forth. But okay, so this first person here, Rob Polo, Polo second or something, he says, yeah, but unlike the hashtag COVIDiot in this country, every one of them has masks on to help fight the Trump virus. So with something like this, it's an odd kind of thing going on here. First of all, he says the COVIDiot, so the one when I first read this, I thought, did he mean Trump? And then again, when I type, sometimes I'll have typos. I'll do things, or sometimes I'll just keep everything not capitalized. But with someone like this, I'm wondering, why is country capitalized here, and then a comma, then the every one of them, and this one, every one of them, it shouldn't be every space one of them. Then why is masks capitalized here? And then to fight the Trump virus. Now with this person, I guess the Trump virus, I understand talking about Trump virus in the United States of America. If you somehow want to say we're going to blame all the deaths in the US to Trump, but any of the actual virus that's in China, is he one of the people who believes when China was saying that, no, it's actually something that the Americans brought in, or when China supposedly shut down for some time and then said, oh, we've controlled the virus, but now people are coming back from other countries and then they're bringing the virus? When he's referring to the virus, does he just call it the Trump virus globally? Is he just referring to that way? That's a strange thing right there. So I don't know what Rob Polo thinks there. I guess maybe in the replies there'll be other things, but I just want to cover a few ranges of this just to see how that story is just posted. It's CBS just posting a story by itself, but looking at the different ways people take that story. Different things happen for the same reasons. The same video is going to actually have a different reaction to people. The same New Year, people are going to think this is a year is finally over and better year is coming for different reasons. Some people are happy, some people are sad, but the same sort of events have happened, but we're different. There's a diverse way we're going to treat these things. Okay, this one. Tied to each balloon is a note mocking the West for not being able to do effective lockdowns. Okay, now here with Mike Ham. Has he produced any information to show how the lockdowns are effective? Does he imagine that the lockdowns in China, when there was actually video of, whether you believe it or not, has he seen the video of the people being welded into actual apartments? Like the metal gates being welded closed, people being chained in. Does he believe that if there was somehow for that to be done in the West, now how general is the West? Is he speaking about Europe? Is he speaking about the entire United States of America? How do you do what was done in a few places in China? Does he trust the numbers coming out from the CCP? Does he believe those numbers are accurate, or is he just saying something to say it? I don't understand there. Okay, now Jules here. I am Jules Ward. He said, I don't feel great about this. Thousands pack isn't something I'm probably ever going to want to be a part of again. Still trying to survive this pandemic. So, I don't know. Trying to survive the pandemic is an activist, nonprofit, reader, liberal, environmentalist, hashtag BLM, voting rights advocate. So I don't understand. I don't feel great about this thousands pack. what does them in China, in Wuhan, have to do with her feeling like it's a lot about fields and things like this. So he's probably ever going to be want to be part of again. So does she not have in her mind? And this is one thing I've been asking when people said 15 days to flatten the curve. Oh, we need once the vaccine comes out, we'll be able to do this. Once we have herd immunity, we'll be able to do this. Once we have enough hospital beds, we'll be able to do this. I feel there's no actual end game in some of these things. It's kind of how the war on terror was like, oh, we start this war and we're not going to have an actual end goal to say now we've actually succeeded in the war on terror. It seems to be the war is for the sake. We've always been at war with Egypt. We've always been at war with the pandemic, with the virus. It seems to be open-ended now. I have some thoughts where I think if Biden gets in as president, he's going to have the 100-day mask mandate, or ask people ask mask date, I call it, or the mask date, because you actually mask with like M, then ask in capitals, because he's going to ask people to wear masks, and then he's going to come together with with a great reset to build back better a new double plus normal kind of situation. They can say, look, we came together and we finally defeated this, and the media is going to start covering the successes of it. They're going to start talking about now we have herd immunity, now we can reopen together and build back better under Biden, because these are things that Trump failed at. So I think that's going to be the kind of way they spin this thing as it goes on. There's a possibility that they might continue this thing, but I don't know. But with her, what is her end goal? Does she have an actual thing? Is she literally meaning figuratively? Can she literally mean that she's never ever going to want to be a part again of thousands packing together? Maybe she was already a recluse. Maybe she was already a bit of an agoraphobe and she didn't really go out being out in public and things like this. But would she think, as a BLM activist, would you consider I would not go and have a a big march anymore? I would not have a protest. Or is it okay when protests are coming? And that's another thing when they talk about the mostly peaceful protests. Some people are literally saying, oh, if you're out there protesting, it's worth it. I mean, it's worth the risk. Or it's kind of different between what you're protesting for. You're not really going to get it. So still trying to survive the pandemic. Are they somebody who is in the really high risk group, or have they had the virus? What is this pandemic in that sense? How is she still trying to survive it? Does she still think the threat of the pandemic is the same as it was a year ago, a calendar year ago, 12 months ago? Does she believe it's the same kind of threat where she's trying to survive? And that's the thing in the United States of America, a living wage, trying to survive. How rough is her life? Maybe it's different. Maybe she's out of work. Maybe she's in these kind of situations. Let me check some of these other people. Okay, proud supporter of the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment, I think, is the one that says if a president is incapacitated, you can take them out. And that's something that people on the left had been talking about a while with getting Trump out. And then now you see with Joe Biden, he has a lot of issues that people were claiming Trump had, and that's also a discussion. Will he actually be pushed out? There's this thing Biden came out and called Kamala Harris the president-elect, and there's been a couple of talks of, are they going to get Biden out? Like, people are openly talking about when is Kamala Harris actually going to get in. That's a regular thing where people are just like, yeah, he's probably a placeholder. The chances of Biden making his entire term is rather low. So I just plugged the battery and then you see the light coming back out and things. Okay, so Rob Polo here. Rob Polo says, working for a living, I'm a Captain Morgan and Coke kind of guy. I don't speak on behalf of anyone. My words are my own. Bills Mafia. So Bills Mafia, that's the Buffalo Bills in in New York, upstate New York. And this is another thing, when people talk about the death rate in New York, they understand New York is a state, and this is something I think I've talked about before when you're comparing New York City deaths. New York City, people say they're putting all those deaths on Trump, as this is Trump's virus. He's the one who did it. But you look at New York City specifically has more deaths in there. And I think I talked about this in a recent video that I might have posted already or might be coming up to be posted, about the death rate in the amount of people that died from COVID in New York City is something like 10 times more, over 10 times more than the amount of people that have died from COVID reported in Kenya. And Kenya is 45 million people, a whole country. And New York City is a lot smaller land-wise, but about half the population at most. Even if you look at the greater New York City area, and that's what I was kind of talking about, the greater New York City area, some parts are in New Jersey, some parts are in Pennsylvania, some parts are in Connecticut. And so you have that kind of area, and that's about 35 million people in that kind of situation, but still 20 times. So that number, he's not putting that number as a Cuomo virus or the de Blasio virus. He's putting that on Trump. But then the Bills Mafia type of thing. There was something in the news talking about, there was someone on ESPN talking about how he's seen some fans of Josh Allen, who is a quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, who have American flags in the background, and that shows that he's racist. Or there's some racist aspect about the fans there. They like that white quarterback, and that's the kind of thing that he represents. I wonder if Rob Polo would consider that to be part of him. Is he part of the racist people? What does he think about a term like that? So there's this odd kind of things working in the United States of America going on that are rather interesting, that are things to still watch. And it's not just the United States of America, it's just the way we approach the world and the way we try to make sense of things. Okay, I'm going to read a couple here. I had read until the jewels, and I was like, okay, this is worth actually doing a video for. So now I'm actually going into these next ones and see what are they saying here. Okay, so Miriam over here. Everything is wrong here. No social distancing, some not wearing masks, letting go of all those balloons, not good for the environment, and I'm sure we'll go home and eat lots of animals, including raw fish. Stop the spread. Including raw fish. Okay, because this is the thing, they were talking about the seafood market in wow, there was some time when there was some talking of the seafood market in Wuhan being the location of the initiation of this. So does she still think that if they go and they eat raw fish from that market, they somehow get more of the virus that will come back out into the world? Eat lots of animals? Is this just going on the whole thing where the bats and other things that the Chinese have been indicated to eat, dogs and things like that? And you think they'll just have all kinds of things in there? Not good for the environment. Going all the balloons. And I have a separate video that's about to be uploaded about Bill Gates and being covered that Bill Gates is trying to block out the sun from the climate change by blot out the sun and things like this in some kind of way where it's actually just some Harvard Central group trying to get this balloon up into the sky off of this Kiruna or something town in the Arctic, and they're trying to do a test to see if in the future they can test and see if there's a way of adding some particulate matter into the sky, some carbon particulate matter of some sorts into the sky to see if that can reflect some of the sun's rays back. So that kind of balloon, I think they might be happier about that kind of balloon and think, okay, a balloon for that purpose is positive, but the balloon's not just going to go up into the environment. I guess if they fall back down, maybe he thinks they'll just be trash, and maybe in China they're not going to clean them up that much. But it's not like I don't understand that right there. And everything is wrong here. Again, everything. This is just it's being too hyperbolic. Like everything is wrong here. So you see this first person over here. I wonder how Rob Polo, who and Miriam, who are probably both on the political left, probably both. They could be both. This person could be trolling, maybe. I don't know. But let's say they're both Biden supporters. Would they agree? Like, you see, this person is like, yeah, but unlike this COVID in this country, these people have masks. So this person probably thinks somehow, even if you're standing close to each other in that way, it's okay to actually have the mask, and the mask will protect you from the actual thing. But this person right here thinks, no, even if you have the masks, you have to social distance. Everyone. Some not wearing masks, and some weren't wearing masks. Some had the nose over the mask thing. I did some merchandise where that, like, I might remember to put that on the screen, where a friend of mine had this thing she was talking about. She lives in America. She walks around and people not wearing the mask, and they keep the nose out, and this thing she sent me, and I did some merch. But anyway, so what would they think? And they definitely were people in this video not wearing masks. Yet this person somehow thinks every one of them has masks. This person clearly saw that some of them not wearing masks. Who is seeing the different world? And even though they're seeing things in different ways, they might still be on the same side. So this whole idea that, it's just every Biden voter is like this, every Trump voter is like this, every libertarian is like this, every communist is like this, every Antifa member is like this, every, I don't know what's the opposite, every Proud Boy is like this. That's not how these things kind of work. Like, these are not necessarily the way things are. People see things in a very diverse way, which is an interesting thing. This new year might not be the best for everyone. This Miriam thinks they started off in a bad way, and Rob Polo over there thinks they started off in a better way. Okay, so sane lunatic. And nearly all those balloons will end up in the ocean, where they will be swallowed up by the ocean's animals, which will kill the animals. Way to cap off your contribution to 2020, Wuhan. Okay, so this person seems to be kind of against it. All the balloons end up in the ocean. I think even if you use the balloons for other reasons, you probably trash the balloons and they go to the fill. So yes, it's different if they go up. I don't think Wuhan was that centrally. I think it's somewhat in. I thought the Schengen, not the Schengen. Schengen is It's Xinhuan. It's Xinhuan. Schengen is the Schengen area in Europe. And for Europe, also, there's some people who are there who are happy. Like, yes, the Brexit is out. So some of the pro-Brexiters, for them, it's a good year. For some of the people who are anti-Brexit, for them, it's a bad year. Okay, so this person, I don't know if he thinks they'll just float all the way to the ocean, or he understands that Xinjiang province or whatever is kind of landlocked. But I guess it could still go, like I said, could still go to the dumps and then be dumped into the ocean. It could still land in rivers and other tributaries that end up taking it all the way to the ocean. So it could be that. So do they have a vaccine? Why not? How is this possible? People have already been able to congregate in certain locations, and supposedly the mask is supposed to work. So if the masks do work, then technically, if you congregate, it's not necessarily a bad thing because the masks are working somehow. And the social distancing, okay, that's something else. And even if it is possible, it doesn't mean everyone who actually gets the virus will die. So for some people, they think it's enough of a risk. It's enough of a risk to have the celebration. So do they have a vaccine? Yes, China has a few vaccines, and they've been talking about. I really saw some reports of the Chinese saying, there's some negativity coming out. They're saying our vaccine isn't as good as a Western vaccine. So there's some competition out there because there's a lot of money. Think about, on average, every vaccine you see out there is going to cost at least $5. So when you have something like a country is buying 500, like buying 100 million, it's buying like 100 million doses for its people. That's a lot of money. So a lot of people there's a few people who stand to make a lot of money by this whole vaccine situation. And you'll see certain people are pushing certain vaccines, and some of those people actually have some financial interest and investment in the companies and development that are doing some of those vaccines. So there's some questionable actions in there. The CCP is already out there trying to make moves and see which countries can accept their actual virus. I think they put Philippines recently, with President Duerte, under some pressure because he didn't want the Chinese virus, the Chinese vaccine. He wants the Chinese. He didn't want the Chinese vaccine, and so there's some questions going back and forth to that. Okay, let's go. It's so surreal. Let's see what Patty Myers over here says with her info. I love my family, Jesus in America, tweeting my own thoughts since 2012. And this is another thing I want to talk about. This is a thing with, you can't tell, is this person Democrat, is this person Republican? I don't know. This is just a person. But this whole idea that, Christians are the only ones on the political right, and then atheists and other people on the, no, that's not true. That's something that needs to be dropped. Saying lunatic, like you see over here, there's no point in dwelling on how bad the situation is. You're better served off with what happens. Sorry, you're better served to focus on what needs to happen and move towards the goal. Matthew O. Williams. I think that's a good statement right there. I don't mind that statement where things are what they are. So for me, I like getting as much data and information about the way things are. And you can see this is just a video, but different people are looking at it in a different way. Okay, so I think I'll do maybe 3 more here and then finish it up. Well, maybe I'll finish up with everything's matters here. So. It's so surreal watching the rest of the world handle the situation so much better and getting back to their lives while America is 310K dead and counting after this year. You anti-maskers deserve hell and high water. It's literally your fault. So I don't know how this person would actually explain. She/her commissions are closed. Lesbian ace, INTJ, so that's the Niels Bragg thing. Over 18 or something. I don't know what that figure is. A chicken, a cock likes cock, maybe? I don't know. I have an I heart cock, I heart pussy type of things where that might be it. Desert witch, all kinds of tempered sunshine, swords and cigarettes and wine. Okay. So this person, so surreal watching the rest of the world. What does she mean watching the rest of the world? Is she watching what's happening in Africa? Does she think the African governments did so much better because I think the entire continent of Africa might have fewer people dead than reported in America? Does she believe those numbers are accurate? Does she believe that the media is covering what's happening in the United States of America in a similar way that they're covering? Does she believe the information she has and the reports that she has of the U.S. is equal to what the reports are she's getting from the rest of the world? I don't understand that. That's a thing. 300K dead. Some countries, America is 350 million people. So the percentage of that, what was the thing? Would this person counting, 300K dead, would this person know how many people in the United States of America? If you asked her, how many people in the United States of America die a year? I don't think she'd be able to tell you. It's about 3 million a year. So when you're looking at the actual proposed figures, how much different would she say that the current death toll this year is than last year. Let's say she didn't know the actual numbers. You just say, okay, you don't even have to know the numbers. Just tell me, how many more people do you think have died this year than last year? Just in total, would you say 310K? Would you say that everything is exactly the same in the death rate, but this 310K is things that could have completely been avoided? How many of these does she think would have been avoided if someone had supposedly done different, if there were less anti-maskers? Let's say everyone from the start of January was wearing a mask every time they were outside. How much does she think this number would have dropped? I don't understand. I don't think she'd be able to give you a number there. Or yeah, I guess because she was she her there. Okay, so I know everything. So much of the world, UK is basically back on stay on. So this person responded to that. Good. Yeah, he's saying some of the things that I was saying. So much of the world, UK is back to stay on orders, protested the vaccine along with Italy. We're not the only ones making a mess of it. So he's saying, yeah, okay, yeah, the mess of the world. And that's the thing. This whole idea, and this is something that is very myopic. It's very myopic where for them, and this is a common thing, and I think most people in China care about China more than the rest of the world. Most people in Bangladesh care about Bangladesh more than the rest of the world. Most people in France care about France than the rest of the world. Most people here in Kenya care about what happened in Kenya more than the rest of the world. So I understand that thing, being focused on what's happening around you. This whole idea that America number one in deaths, America number one in everything. Well, even this thing, it's so surreal watching the rest of the world handle the situation so much better. Does she think, how many other places in the world have actually developed a vaccine? So I think that would be a good way of handling a pandemic, would be to develop a vaccine that fights that pandemic. And I think there's been the United States of America. Russia said they did one. And there's a few countries in Europe that have, I think in the UK there was one, and there was one in Belgium. And then China, of course, has said they've done one. So a few countries have claimed to have actually developed one. Those countries, I think, if this person agrees, there's actual virus, and there is actually some virus out there, there's some things in someone in Ireland actually sued the Irish government to say, provide actual evidence that they've literally found, isolated the what you call in COVID-19 in a lab to show that it exists. And the Irish government came out and said they can't provide that evidence because they haven't isolated the exact strain. I think if they said they had, they would have opened up to some legality in case the strain changes or the data changes and those kind of things. So there's some things, ins and outs of that kind of thing. But there is something out there that is killing people. How much of it is directly 100% the virus? That's up for questions. But if they say that, then there's something actually out there, and somebody develops something that can actually combat that thing out there that's killing these supposedly 310K dead that this person's talking about. That's doing a good job. So at least those 10 countries or so that have actually developed a vaccine are doing better than the other 100 or 20 countries that have not developed a vaccine. I think in the least you could say that. Okay, so I am so unimpressed that they are masked. There are thousands of them literally falling all over each other. Masks are great, but they are not enough without social distance. Sorry, but it's true. Half the time I see people wearing masks under their nose, makes no sense. So right here, again, with the nose thing. And that's a good point and right there. I don't care, like, who actually thinks simply wearing masks and still being in groups like that is okay? If I don't understand what knowledge of the virus and particulate matter that you come out and you breathe out, not even talking about the whole situation where, let's say you have a small amount of it in your system and your system's getting it out by exhaling it and then going out. But if it's in a mask, you might be breathing that back in, letting it incubate longer in you and actually develop into a stronger kind of thing. Whereas if it was just in there, this could be a thing happening in there. But besides that point, when they come out here and they say that as long as you're wearing a mask, you can still crowd like this and you're not going to get it. That to me is an absurd. It's an absurdity. Like, no. Like, it's better to social distance and no mask than to not social distance and a mask. From just my general understanding of what this thing is. Just by it being something that is with the breathing. Because not only is it just the breathing, but the breathing is not going to get on you. Even if less amount of the breath is coming out through the mask, it's not 100% filtered of the virus. So there's still some air coming out, and that's still landing on people's bodies if you're this close to each other. Let alone the touching, the physical touch of the people and they're transferring. That's part of what can happen. So why are people cheering that? Okay, so last one. Compare this to Times Square, all but empty. Only invited guests. Across the USA, fireworks canceled in major cities. Law enforcement on the lookout for house parties. The message is to watch the celebrations home. The complete opposite of Wuhan. Yeah, not the complete opposite or anything, but in America, as there was in 4th of July when they said there was going to be no big fireworks, there's still films from over the cities, and you can see people throwing on their own fireworks. I was talking to my my family in Italy, in Rome, and they had some things where people still were allowed, were encouraged, accepted for, yes, they have that curfew, but even if past 10 o'clock, you can still be out. Even at the actual moment of the New Year's, you could still be out there in your own compound with those little poppers where you throw on the ground or small little fireworks displays. And you can still have some kind of celebratory type of thing there. So that's this part of it. And I guess we'll just throw in one more here. God, is so depressing seeing those balloons being released. As someone who regularly does beach cleanups, I've seen firsthand the impact of these things have. Yeah, I'm not big on releasing balloons up to the sky and things, but I said even if you use them in your home, they normally get to the dump. But yeah, just so that's it for now. Happy New Year to you out there with the Meme Whisperer and this Meme Whisperer series where I analyze Twitter and analyze tweets and comments and other things like that. There's going to be more content coming. With that meme, what do you think? How was your 2020, all things considered, now that had some time to kind of overview it? Do you think there's certain things that actually transition, or do you think it's just a simply type of thing where people just have that idea of manifestation and the secret and things like that I don't consider by? I think that's all just together in with things like prayer and things like meditation, where if you focus on something enough, you're going to be more evident, you're going to find an easier way to actually notice the chances for you to actually avoid or actually achieve that goal. If you're focusing on it more, if you're just thinking about it. So whether it's manifestation, I don't think it's some kind of extra sensory ability and power where it's like, oh, four-leaf clover is going to increase my luck. The four-leaf clover itself doesn't manifest anything. Your idea that you found a four-leaf clover might make you be more cognizant of things that you might not have noticed before and be like, oh, this is a chance for me to actually win this. But then in the past, without the four-leaf clover, you'd have been like, no, I'm probably going to lose that thing, so I'm not even going to attempt to actually ask this person this question, even though if they say yes, it might lead to me actually achieving this job or achieving this goal. But I'm normally unlucky, so you won't even ask the question. But because you know you got a four-leaf clover, and you think somehow that four-leaf clover increases your luck, with that same exact luck quotient or whatever it is, the same exact chance of that person saying yes or no, you asking might be something that the knowledge of the four-leaf clover increases the chance that you would ask the question. It doesn't increase the chance that the answer is going to be yes. But just by asking already increases the chance of there being a yes answer versus you not asking at all. Let's say it's a complete thing where someone is like, is that place open or is that place closed? If you ask the question, you will find out if the place is open or closed. And let's say if the place is open, you go to that location. And then when you get to that location, you apply for that job. And when you apply for that job, you get the money and you get the house that you've wanted. So you might think, oh, I got the four-leaf clover and that made me lucky to get that house that I wanted. And whereas in the past, you're like, I'm not even going to bother asking. But let's say you got the four-leaf clover anyway, and you didn't know about it, it doesn't mean that place will be open or closed. If you're trying to, that's making any sense to you. Like the idea, the knowledge and awareness of how you define the situation could change your actual actions. I think there's something where I think somebody else posted this, thoughts have consequences. So yes, the way you think about a certain thing, the way you think about the change or the new year, it might make certain news that you heard previously, but because you think there is some importance to the Gregorian calendar, switching over, like with China here, some people don't go by the Gregorian calendar, but they still understand we're part of a global community, so we're adding these kind of things. But anyway, so you come to this thing, and some people might have those thoughts, so they might think there may be certain information that if they had gotten that information in December 30th, it should have been different. But if they got that information on January 2nd, they would approach that in a different way because they think new year, new me. So that could be some of the things. Maybe I get that's part of why people do it, but I don't understand why people still put any significance in that when it's simply just a Gregorian calendar and it's just another 24 hours passing. And for me, it's just a continuation of positive and good things, taking good things and bad things in different ways, or taking information and then seeing what the best I can make out of them is. And with making content like this and being thankful for y'all being out there to listen to this. There should be some merchandise on the screen if you're watching the video version. Like, share, subscribe. There'll be more content coming. I'm not quite sure on what kind of schedule I'm on with these things. I have a few series coming up where talking about human action with my friend Steven, and they have been invited to talk to somebody else on their own podcast. So I'm going to be trying to move more towards more conversational things and getting more interactive and talking and trying to understand, trying to define things and get over that whole situation where problems occur not because of what X is, but because of how we define X. So I think if we can define what the thing is, if we can get to a situation where we get a better understanding of what this virus is, where it came from, what the better ways to actually avoid the virus, avoid other situations, avoid the political strife, avoid all these things that are happening, if we can come to understanding to what we define the things as, I think we'll be better at knowing this is positive, this is how to avoid this is how to go forward, this is how to defend against these things, these are the things we need to restart. So in this time, that's kind of my thoughts and ideas on this. And thank you. Goodbye.